Sarah Martinez stared at the whiteboard covered in lines of code that had stumped 15 highly paid software engineers for 3 hours. The meeting room fell silent as someone jokingly asked the janitor cleaning nearby if she could solve it. Without hesitation, she walked over, grabbed the marker, and in 30 seconds identified the critical bug that would have cost the company millions. The entire room erupted in stunned silence, then thunderous applause. But what they didn't know was that this single mother of two had been secretly teaching herself programming every night after her cleaning shifts, dreaming of a different life for her children. Before we continue, if you enjoy incredible stories of determination and unexpected triumph, make sure to click that subscribe button. This is the best way for you to support our work. Thank you very much, and let's continue. Sarah had never imagined her life would unfold this way. 5 years earlier, she had been a promising computer science student at MIT, top of her class, with dreams of revolutionizing the tech industry. But life has a way of throwing curveballs when you least expect them. Her boyfriend abandoned her when she got pregnant with twins, her parents disowned her for refusing to give up the babies, and her savings evaporated faster than morning dew. Suddenly, the brilliant young woman who once debugged complex algorithms was scrubbing floors at Technova Solutions, the very type of company she had once dreamed of leading. Every night, after tucking 7-year-old Emma and Ethan into their small apartment bed, Sarah would sit at her second-hand laptop, the glow of the screen illuminating her tired but determined face. While her children slept, she dove into programming tutorials, online courses, and coding challenges. The apartment was quiet, except for the gentle hum of the old computer and the occasional sound of her fingers dancing across the worn keyboard. She had a plan, a dream that kept her going through the exhaustion and the endless nights of studying after 12-hour cleaning shifts. The irony wasn't lost on her that she spent her days cleaning the offices of some of the most innovative minds in Silicon Valley, yet none of them saw her as anything more than invisible help. She would quietly listen to their conversations about algorithms, system architectures, and breakthrough technologies while emptying their trash cans and wiping down their whiteboards. Sometimes she would pause, studying the complex diagrams and code snippets they left behind, mentally working through the problems they discussed with such animated passion. Sarah's supervisor, Maria Gonzalez, was a kind woman in her 50s who had noticed something different about this particular employee. While other cleaners rushed through their tasks, Sarah would sometimes linger near the development team's workspace, her eyes scanning the monitors and whiteboards with an intensity that seemed out of place for someone whose job was to maintain cleanliness, not solve computational problems. One evening, as Sarah was meticulously cleaning the conference room where the development team held their daily stand-ups, she overheard a heated discussion. The team was struggling with a memory leak in their flagship application that was causing crashes for thousands of users. The bug had been plaguing them for weeks, and the pressure from upper management was mounting. As she quietly wiped down the table, she found herself mentally tracing through the code snippets they had scrawled on the whiteboard, identifying patterns and potential issues. The team lead, David Chen, was a brilliant but sometimes arrogant developer who had graduated from Stanford with honors. He was known for his innovative solutions, but also for his impatience with anyone he perceived as intellectually inferior. That night, he was particularly frustrated, pacing around the room as he explained to his team why their latest attempt at fixing the memory leak had failed spectacularly. Sarah finished her cleaning and was about to leave when she noticed an error in their logic flow diagram. The bug wasn't where they thought it was. She stood there for a moment, wrestling with herself. Should she say something? Would they even listen to a janitor? The fear of embarrassment, of being laughed at or dismissed held her back. She quietly left the room, but the solution nagged at her all night. The next morning brought devastating news. The memory leak had caused a massive system failure, crashing the application for over 50,000 users during peak business hours. The company's reputation was on the line, and several major clients were threatening to terminate their contracts. An emergency meeting was called, bringing together not only the development team, but also the CEO, Rebecca Thompson, and several other high-level executives. Sarah was cleaning nearby offices when she heard the commotion from the main conference room. Through the glass walls, she could see the tension in everyone's faces. David Chen looked exhausted and defeated as he presented their failed attempts to locate the bug. The CEO's expression grew darker with each passing minute as the financial implications became clear. The company's stock had already dropped 12% in pre-market trading. As the meeting stretched into its third hour with no breakthrough in sight, the atmosphere became increasingly desperate. Sarah had finished cleaning the adjacent offices and was now working on the conference room next door, separated only by a thin wall. She could hear every word of their increasingly frantic discussions. They were looking in all the wrong places, making the problem more complex than it actually was. The breakthrough moment came when David, in a moment of exhausted frustration, began erasing sections of code from the whiteboard to start over. As he wiped away lines of variables and functions, Sarah noticed through the glass partition that he was about to erase the one section that actually contained the root cause of their problem. It was a subtle issue with memory allocation in their user authentication module, something that would be easy to miss unless you understood the intricate relationship between their session management and garbage collection processes. Unable to watch them make this critical mistake, Sarah found herself knocking on the conference room door. The room fell silent as all eyes turned to the janitor standing in the doorway, her cleaning cart beside her. Rebecca Thompson, the CEO, looked surprised but not unkind as she asked if there was an emergency. Sarah's heart was pounding so hard she was sure everyone could hear it. Her mouth felt dry and her hands were trembling slightly as she held her cleaning supplies. This was it, the moment that would either change everything or humiliate her beyond recovery. She took a deep breath and said, "I'm sorry to interrupt, but I couldn't help but notice the code on your whiteboard. I think you might be looking in the wrong place for your memory leak." The silence that followed was deafening. David Chen's expression shifted from surprise to barely concealed irritation. Who was this janitor to interrupt their critical meeting with amateur observations? Several other team members exchanged glances that ranged from confusion to mild amusement. The audacity of the cleaning lady thinking she could solve what 15 experienced engineers couldn't was almost laughable. But Rebecca Thompson had not become CEO of a major tech company by dismissing potential solutions based on their source. She had built her career on recognizing talent wherever it appeared and fostering innovation from unexpected places. Something in Sarah's demeanor, the confidence mixed with nervousness, the way she had specifically mentioned the whiteboard code rather than making vague suggestions, intrigued her. "Please, come in," Rebecca said, her voice cutting through the skeptical murmurs of the development team. "What's your name?" "Sarah Martinez," she replied, setting down her cleaning supplies and walking toward the whiteboard with a purposefulness that surprised everyone in the room. Her hands were still shaking, but her voice grew steadier as she began to explain what she had observed. She pointed to a section of code that the team had been ignoring, a seemingly innocuous function call in their user authentication module. "This function here," she said, her finger tracing the logic flow, "it's creating new memory allocations every time a user refreshes their session. But the garbage collector isn't properly releasing the previous allocations because of this reference. Loop." David Chen stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. "That's impossible," he said, his voice tight with frustration and disbelief. "We've been through that module dozens of times. The session management is completely isolated from the memory allocation pools." Sarah turned to face him, and for the first time in years, she felt the familiar surge of confidence that had once made her a standout student. "It's not isolated if you're maintaining persistent references in the background authentication cache," she replied calmly. "Every time a user authenticates, you're storing their session data in the cache. But when they log out or their session expires, you're only clearing the active session reference, not the cached authentication data." The room went completely silent. David Chen's face had gone pale, and he was staring at the whiteboard with new understanding dawning in his eyes. Sarah continued, her voice growing stronger as she warmed to the subject she loved so much. "The memory leak isn't happening during normal user activity," she explained, moving to a different section of the whiteboard. "It's happening during session timeouts and forced logouts. Every expired session leaves behind an orphaned authentication object that the garbage collector can't reach because it's still technically referenced by the security validation thread." She grabbed a marker and began drawing a diagram that illustrated the problem with elegant simplicity. As she sketched out the memory allocation flow, showing exactly where the references were getting stuck, the development team began to lean forward, their skepticism rapidly transforming into amazement. "Jesus Christ," whispered Jake Morrison, one of the senior developers. "She's right. We've been looking at user activity patterns, but we never traced the session expiration workflow." "Hold up!" David Chen walked over to his laptop and began typing furiously, running queries against their error logs with new search parameters based on Sarah's analysis. Within minutes, he had found the smoking gun, thousands of entries showing memory allocation spikes that corresponded exactly with session timeout events. The transformation in the room was electric. What had started as a moment of desperate frustration had suddenly become a celebration of breakthrough discovery. Rebecca Thompson was watching Sarah with intense curiosity, clearly seeing something that went far beyond a lucky guess or casual observation. "How long have you been programming?" Rebecca asked, her voice carrying a mixture of respect and fascination. Sarah felt her cheeks flush with a combination of pride and nervousness. "I taught myself," she said simply. "I study every night after work. I've been working on similar authentication systems in my personal projects." The questions came rapid fire from the development team. How had she learned about memory management? What programming languages did she know? What kind of personal projects was she working on? Sarah answered each question with growing confidence, demonstrating a depth of knowledge that impressed even the most skeptical team members. "David Chen," who had initially been the most resistant to accepting help from a janitor, found himself asking increasingly complex technical questions, trying to understand the full scope of Sarah's abilities. Her answers revealed not just theoretical knowledge, but practical understanding of real-world system architecture challenges. As the immediate crisis was resolved and the team implemented Sarah's solution, Rebecca Thompson asked to speak with her privately. They moved to a smaller conference room, where the CEO's demeanor shifted from professional curiosity to genuine personal interest. "Tell me about your background," Rebecca said, settling into her chair with the focused attention of someone who had just witnessed something extraordinary. Sarah's story unfolded like a novel of perseverance and sacrifice. She spoke about her MIT education, the pregnancy that changed everything, the abandonment by family and boyfriend, the years of struggling to provide for her twins while never giving up on her dreams. She described the nights spent learning new programming languages, building personal projects, and staying current with industry developments, all while working full-time as a janitor to keep food on the table and a roof over their heads. Rebecca listened with growing admiration and something that looked like recognition. She had faced her own share of challenges, rising through the ranks of the tech industry as a woman, though nothing quite as dramatic as Sarah's journey. The determination and intelligence sitting across from her reminded her of her younger self, fighting for recognition in a world that often dismissed her capabilities. "What do you want, Sarah?" Rebecca asked finally. "Not just a job, but what do you really want to do with your life?" The question caught Sarah off guard. For so long, her dreams had seemed so distant, so impossible, that she had learned to focus only on immediate survival. But sitting in this conference room, having just solved a problem that had stumped an entire team of experts, those long-suppressed dreams began to surface again. "I want to build things that matter," Sarah said, her voice growing stronger as she spoke. "I want to create software that makes people's lives better. I want my children to see that their mother didn't just survive her circumstances, but transformed them into something meaningful." Rebecca nodded slowly, her mind already working through possibilities. This wasn't just about recognizing talent. It was about the kind of story that could inspire an entire organization and demonstrate the company's commitment to finding excellence wherever it existed. The conversation continued for another hour, covering everything from Sarah's technical skills to her long-term career aspirations. Rebecca learned about the personal projects Sarah had been developing, including a mobile application designed to help single parents connect with community, resources and support networks. The app demonstrated not only programming competence, but also user interface design skills and a deep understanding of real-world problem solving. When they finally concluded their discussion, Rebecca had made a decision that would change not only Sarah's life, but also set a precedent for how Technova Solutions approach talent recruitment and development. "I'm offering you a position as a junior software developer," Rebecca said, her words carrying the weight of a life-changing opportunity. "The salary will be 4 times what you're making now, with full benefits, and I'm personally going to ensure that you have mentorship opportunities to accelerate your career development." Sarah felt tears welling up in her eyes, a mixture of joy, relief, and overwhelming gratitude. The dreams she had carried through years of struggle were suddenly within reach, not just as distant possibilities, but as immediate reality. But the story was far from over. Sarah's transition from janitor to developer became a catalyst for broader changes within the company culture. Her success inspired other employees to share their hidden talents and unrealized potential. The company instituted a program encouraging all staff members, regardless of their current position, to contribute ideas and demonstrate skills that might be underutilized in their current roles. 6 months later, Sarah had not only excelled in her new position, but had become a team leader on several critical projects. Her unique perspective, combining technical expertise with real-world understanding of user needs, brought a fresh approach to product development that impressed clients and colleagues alike. The mobile application she had been developing in her spare time was eventually acquired by Technova Solutions and became one of their most successful community-focused products, helping thousands of single parents access resources and build support networks. Emma and Ethan, Sarah's twins, went from living in a cramped apartment to a comfortable home with their own rooms and access to educational opportunities their mother had only dreamed of providing. More importantly, they witnessed firsthand the power of perseverance, education, and refusing to accept limitations imposed by circumstances. David Chen, who had initially been skeptical of Sarah's abilities, became one of her strongest advocates and closest professional collaborators. Their partnership demonstrated how talent and expertise could emerge from the most unexpected places when given the opportunity to flourish. The story of Sarah Martinez spread throughout the tech industry, not just as an inspirational tale, but as a practical example of how companies could discover and develop hidden talent within their own organizations. Her journey from janitor to senior developer became a case study in business schools and a talking point at industry conferences about inclusive hiring practices. and recognizing potential beyond traditional credentials. But perhaps the most profound impact was on Sarah herself. The woman who had once felt invisible, whose talents had been overlooked and dismissed, had not only found her place in the industry she loved, but had become a leader, an inspiration to others facing similar challenges. Her success wasn't just professional. It was personal validation that dreams deferred are not necessarily dreams denied. Years later, when Sarah was promoted to Director of Product Development, she would often walk past the conference room where her life had changed. Forever. Sometimes she would pause and remember that moment of terror and courage when she decided to speak up, to risk embarrassment and rejection in pursuit of something greater than her circumstances. The whiteboard in that room now displayed new challenges, new problems waiting to be solved by the next generation of innovative thinkers. And Sarah made sure that every voice in those meetings was heard, that every perspective was valued, because she understood that brilliance could emerge from the most unexpected places when given the opportunity to shine. Her story became more than just personal triumph. It became a testament to the power of perseverance, the importance of recognizing talent wherever it appears, and the transformative impact of giving people the chance to exceed the limitations that others might place on them. The months following Sarah's promotion were filled with challenges that tested not only her technical abilities, but also her leadership skills. She found herself managing a team of developers, some of whom had initially been skeptical about taking direction from someone who had so recently been cleaning their offices. The transition required delicate navigation of office politics and the establishment of credibility through consistent excellence rather than positional authority. One particularly memorable project involved developing a revolutionary customer service platform for a major healthcare provider. The client had specific requirements that seemed almost impossible to reconcile with their existing infrastructure limitations. Traditional approaches had failed, and the project was on the verge of cancellation, when Sarah proposed an innovative solution that drew from her unique understanding of both technical constraints and real-world user needs. During late-night strategy sessions, Sarah would share insights that came from her years of observing. People struggle with technology barriers. She understood frustration in a way that her colleagues, who had grown up with privilege and access to the latest technology, simply couldn't grasp. This perspective became invaluable in designing user interfaces that were truly intuitive rather than just technically elegant. The healthcare platform project became a defining moment for Sarah's career. Her solution involved creating a hybrid system that could seamlessly integrate with legacy infrastructure, while providing a modern, accessible interface for patients and healthcare providers. The technical challenge was immense, requiring expertise in multiple programming languages, database management, and user experience design. Working 18-hour days, Sarah led her team through the development process with a combination of technical precision and empathetic leadership that surprised even herself. She discovered that her years of struggle had taught her patience and resilience that proved invaluable when managing complex projects under extreme pressure. When team members felt overwhelmed or discouraged, she could draw from her own experience of overcoming seemingly impossible obstacles. The breakthrough came during a particularly challenging debugging session. The system was experiencing intermittent failures that couldn't be replicated in their testing environment. Sarah recognized the pattern from her own experience trying to study on unreliable hardware with inconsistent internet connections. The failures were happening when the system encountered the kind of real-world infrastructure limitations that existed in many healthcare facilities, but were absent from their high-end development environment. Her solution involved building adaptive algorithms that could automatically adjust system performance based on available resources, ensuring functionality even in less than ideal conditions. This innovation not only solved the immediate problem, but created a new standard for healthcare technology that could serve under-resourced communities, something that resonated deeply with Sarah's personal mission. The success of the healthcare platform caught the attention of industry leaders and technology journalists. Sarah found herself invited to speak at conferences, sharing her unique perspective on inclusive design and the importance of diverse backgrounds in technology development. These speaking engagements revealed another hidden talent: her ability to communicate complex technical concepts to diverse audiences while weaving in compelling personal narratives that made abstract ideas tangible and relatable. Meanwhile, her children Emma and Ethan were thriving in their new circumstances. Emma had developed a passion for robotics, inspired by watching her mother's journey and the technology projects that now filled their home. Ethan showed remarkable aptitude for mathematics and logical problem-solving, often helping his mother test user interfaces from a child's perspective. The family that had once struggled to afford basic necessities now engaged in dinner conversations about artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and the ethical implications of emerging technologies. Sarah's influence within Technova Solutions continued to expand as she championed initiatives that looked beyond traditional recruitment channels. She established partnerships with community colleges, vocational training programs, and organizations serving underrepresented populations. Her Hidden Talent Initiative identified individuals whose potential had been overlooked due to unconventional backgrounds or circumstances similar to her own. One of the program's early successes was Marcus Williams, a former construction worker, who had taught himself web development after a workplace injury ended his physical labor career. Another was Isabella Rodriguez, a refugee from Venezuela, who held advanced degrees in computer science but had been working in food service while navigating immigration challenges. Sarah's program provided pathways for these individuals to demonstrate their abilities and transition into technology careers that matched their skills and aspirations. The ripple effects of Sarah's transformation extended beyond individual success stories. Technova Solutions' stock price had steadily climbed as the company gained recognition for both innovative products and progressive employment practices. The healthcare platform had generated millions in revenue while establishing the company as a leader in accessible technology design. Industry analysts credited Sarah's leadership with driving not only technical innovation, but also cultural transformation that attracted top talent and major clients. Rebecca Thompson, now serving as chairman of the board after promoting Sarah to chief technology officer, often reflected on that pivotal meeting where a janitor had solved a problem that had stumped an entire development team. The decision to listen, to look beyond preconceptions and traditional hierarchies, had proven to be one of the most valuable choices in the company's history. Sarah's office, located in the executive suite she had once cleaned, was decorated with awards and recognition from industry organizations, but the most meaningful item was a framed photograph of that original whiteboard, taken moments after she had identified the memory leak that started everything. Below it hung her MIT diploma, finally displayed with pride after years of being hidden away as a painful reminder of dreams deferred. The transformation was complete, but Sarah never forgot the lessons learned during her years of struggle. She maintained relationships with her former colleagues in the facilities management department, often joining them for lunch and ensuring that the company's success translated into improved working conditions and opportunities for all employees, regardless of their position in the organizational hierarchy. Her story had become legendary within the company and beyond, but Sarah was careful to emphasize that her success was not just about individual determination. It required recognition, an opportunity from others, particularly Rebecca Thompson's willingness to listen, and David Chen's eventual embrace of collaboration. The narrative was about systemic change as much as personal triumph, about creating environments where talent could emerge and flourish regardless of its packaging. As Sarah looked toward the future, she saw endless possibilities, not just for herself, but for others who might be overlooked by traditional systems. Her journey from janitor to executive had proven that potential exists in unexpected places, waiting for the right moment and the right opportunity to transform not just individual lives, but entire organizations and industries. The code she had debugged on that whiteboard had been simple compared to the complex systems of opportunity and recognition that she was now working to reprogram for the benefit of everyone who had ever been underestimated or dismissed. The woman who had once been invisible had become a beacon of possibility, proving that sometimes the most powerful innovations come not from those who have always had access to opportunity, but from those who understand the true value of the chances they're given to prove what they can achieve. Sarah Martinez had solved far more than a memory leak that day. She had debugged an entire system of assumptions about talent, potential, and the extraordinary capabilities that can emerge when determination meets opportunity.